सर्वेभ्यः येनाक्षरसमाम्नयमधिगम्य महेश्वरात् कृष्णं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयं नत्वा सरस्वतीं देवीं शुद्धां गुण्यां करोम्यहं पाणिनीयप्रवेशाय लघुसिद्धान्तकौमुदी। अदर्शनं लोपः इति सूत्रम् अस्माभिः पूर्वस्मिन् वर्गे दृष्टं। झटिति पुनरेकवारं किञ्चित् पुनरावर्तनं कुर्मः। So I've prepared a small slide with the points. So तत्र सर्वप्रथमं पदद्वयात्मकं सूत्रम् अदर्शनं तथा लोपः। अदर्शनम् इति उद्देश्यं, लोपः इति विधेयम्। अदर्शनम् इत्यत्र ल्युट् प्रत्ययः, लोपः इत्यत्र घञ् प्रत्ययः। अदर्शनम् इत्यत्र नयसमासः अस्ति। तत्र कीदृशः समासः इति चेत् नये बहुव्रीहिः भवितुमर्हति, परन्तु तादृशः नास्ति। नये तत्पुरुषः भवितुमर्हति, परन्तु तथा क्रियते चेत् दर्शनभिन्नं दर्शनसदृशम् इति अर्थः स्यात्। अतः अन्ते अस्माभिः अव्ययीभावसमासः स्वीकृतः। दर्शनस्य अभावः अदर्शनम् इति अव्ययीभावः। अदर्शनम् इत्यस्यैव भिन्नाः शब्दाः तस्मिन्नेव अर्थे प्रयुक्ताः काशिकाकारेण अस्माभिः दृष्टाः। तत्र अदर्शनम्, अश्रवणम्, अनुच्चारणम्, अनुपलब्धिः, अभावः, वर्णविनाशः इति सर्वम् अनर्थान्तरं, न अर्थान्तरं, भिन्नाः अर्थाः न सन्ति इति आशयः। तदनन्तरम् अदर्शनं लोपः तथा वृद्धिरादैच् एतयोः मध्ये कीदृशः मुख्यः भेदः इति दृष्टं। वृद्धिरादैच् इत्यत्र वर्णस्य शब्दस्य आनुपूर्वेः संज्ञा क्रियते, अत्र अर्थस्य संज्ञा भवति, शब्दस्य संज्ञा न भवति। अदर्शन, these letters are not being called lopa. Adarshana, the concept of adarshana, the concept of non-visibility is called lopa. तदनन्तरं केवलम् अदर्शनं लोपः इति लिखितमस्ति। सर्वस्य अदर्शनं भवितुमर्हति, परन्तु तादृशं क्रियते चेत् प्रत्ययलोपे प्रत्ययलक्षणम् इति तत्र आपत्तिः। अतः प्रसक्तस्य अदर्शनम् इति व्याख्यातृभिः तत्र विशेषः निर्दिश्यते। How do they reach this prasakta? We pull the word sthani from one of the previous sutras. You have multiple options. Shashti sthane yoga, sthanentaratamas, sthanivadadesho nalvidhau. इत्यस्मात् स्थान इति कथञ्चित् तस्य अनुवृत्तिः करणीया। स्थानं च प्रसङ्गः, प्रसङ्गे सति इत्युक्ते उपस्थितौ सति इति आशयः स्वीकर्तव्यः। That entity is actually there or it is expected to come there and then it disappears. अन्ते अस्माभिः दृष्टं दृश इति धातोः ज्ञानसामान्यम् इति अर्थः, तस्य निषेधः नैव सम्भवति. So cognition cannot be undone even if you really want to do it. So then we restrict the usage and say उच्चारणस्यैव निषेधः. पुनरेकवारं व्याख्यां पश्यामः। शास्त्रतः अर्थतः प्रसक्तस्य प्राप्तोच्चारणस्य इति अर्थः, तस्य लोपः भवति इति। दृशेः ज्ञानसामान्य अर्थकत्वात् तस्य च निषेध असम्भवात् उच्चारणसत्तायाः एव निषेधः इति अत्र भावः। इदानीम् अस्य सूत्रस्य सन्दर्भेण प्रश्नाः सन्ति, किञ्चित् अधिकं स्पष्टीकरणम् इष्यते चेत् पृच्छन्तु, नो चेत् अग्रे गच्छामः।
Kashika, anartha, what exactly meant by that anartha?
This one, anarthantaram, na arthantaram. So, arthantaram is bhinnaha arthaha. So all these words do not mean different things, they mean the same thing in the current context. Arthantaram nasti. So adarshanam, so somebody will say there is no darshana because the words are never seen, they are heard. So adarshanam is ashravanam. So one will say, what is ashravanam to do? You just don't pronounce, so automatically ashravanam will happen. So anuccharanam. So all these words mean the one and the same thing in this particular context is what he is clarifying. Arthantaram. Antaram is different. Arthantaram. Arthaha bhinnaha asti chet arthantaram. Na arthantaram is anartha. Or arthantaram se abhavaha is anartha. लघु सिद्धांत कौमुद्यां विद्यमानम् अग्रिमं सूत्रं तस्य लोपः. Everybody knows? Any explanation is needed? कुत्र अस्ति इदं सूत्रम्? इत्संज्ञा प्रकरणस्य अन्तिमं सूत्रं, प्रथमाध्यायस्य तृतीयपादस्य नवमं सूत्रं, तस्य लोपः। तस्य इत्युक्ते कस्य लोपः?
इत्सम्यकस्य वर्णस्य
इत्सम्यकस्य वर्णस्य लोपः। किं नाम इत्संज्ञा? उपदेशे अजनुनासिक इत हलन्त्यं न विभक्तौ तु स्माः आदिर्निटुडवः शफ् प्रत्ययस्य चुटु लशक्वतद्धिते तस्य लोपः. So okay, this is a very crucial section, and it is unfortunate that Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi teaches only one sutram halantyam and then directly starts talking about tasya lopaha. I would have taught all the sutras in sequence. It's extremely important to know this basic concept before moving on. The Itsamya Prakaranam is very beautifully and logically arranged. Understand this point. It starts with Upadeshe Janunasika It, which is basically giving the term It, also giving the term Upadesha. Both of these are going to be carried throughout this entire section. In an Upadesha, any swara which is Anunasika becomes Itsamyaka. So see, beautiful arrangement. The first sutram is about a general swara. The second sutram is about a general vyanjana as long as it occurs at the end. Then there is a nishedha specifically for halantyam. Halantyam ityanena sutrena uktasya itsamyaka varnasya nishedha kriyate. Then he gives all the sutras, all the remaining sutras talk about the beginning letter. So see the arrangement. Initially, Upadeshe Ajanunasika Ita is any letter. Halantyam is last letter. Na Vibhakta Tusma is a part of that. So again talks about the last letter. And Adir Nitudavha, Shaf Pratyayasya, Chutu, Lashakvatadhite are all Adi letters. So any letter followed by last letter followed by beginning letter. Very beautiful arrangement. In that Adi section, this Adir Nitudavaha Sutram is only applicable for
Dhatava.
Dhatus. Correct.
Dhatu.
Correct. So this is a sutram that is only applicable for dhatus. The remaining sutras are only applicable for
Pratyayas.
pratyayas. There is a pratyayasya anuvritti coming over here. So see what a skilled arrangement. Anywhere at the end, beginning. In the beginning, a sutra that is only applicable to dhatus, followed by a sutra that is only applicable to pratyayas. Inside the pratyayas, first sutram for all pratyayas, second sutram for all pratyayas, third sutram for a subset of pratyayas. Atadhite. La sha ku atadhite. Even a simple itsamyaka section tells so much about Ashtadhyayi. And then finally, tasya lopaha. Okay, so in this way, these sutras have been arranged in sequence. He gives the itsamnya by various sutras, and then he says eventually tasya lopaha. Tasya ityukte itsamnyaka varnasya lopaha. Sutre padadvayam tasya iti shashti ekavachanam lopaha iti prathama ekavachanam. We have already seen lopaha in adarshanam lopaha. Tasya ityukte itsamnyaka varnasya lopaha. Okay, let's understand. First question, why is tasya needed in this sutram?
स्थानि स्थानिं द्योतयितुं
स्थानीनं द्योतयितुं.
स्थानीनम्.
स्थानिम् इति अस्ति. स्थानीनं द्योतयितुं. परन्तु तत्र अस्य प्रकरणस्य सम्पूर्णः विषयः इत्सम्यकवर्णः इत्येव अस्ति. तर्हि लोपः इति वदामश्चेदपि इत्सम्यकवर्णस्य लोपः इत्येव भवितुम् अर्हति किल? लोपस्य इति संज्ञा नैव भवति. I mean, if you just say lashakva tadhite and lopaha, it won't mean that lopa is called itsamyaka. That would be a natural thing to understand. There is no need to have a vyakarana for that. So just say lopaha and it can mean the itsamyaka letter is being removed. Is the question clear? Lots of hair splitting probably. Why is tasya being used in this sutra? This is discussed in the bhashya. So why is tasya needed in this sutra? So tasya is needed in this sutra because without tasya, if you just say lopaha, alone tasya might come in the picture and only one letter might be removed at a time. Whereas in case of itsamyaka prakaranam, there are units of letters, varna samudaya, which is combined being considered as itsamyaka. So for example, in adir yitudavha, ya is not itsamyaka, yi is itsamyaka. Y and E are not separately called Itsamnyaka letters. The entire Y fragment is Itsamnyaka. The entire do fragment, like Dukroin, is Itsamnyaka. Entire two fragment is Itsamnyaka. And we want the entire fragment to be removed. Sampurnasya Itsamnyakavarnasya lopaha bhave. अतः तस्य इत्युक्ते तस्य इत्सम्यकस्य इति अत्र निर्देशः अस्ति. केवलं लोपः इति उच्यमाने अलोन्त्यस्य इत्यनेन केवलम् अन्तिमस्य अक्षरस्य अन्तिमस्य वर्णस्य लोपः भवेत्. अत्र सम्पूर्णस्य लोपः इष्यते. अतः अत्र तस्य इति स्पष्टरूपेण निर्दिष्टम् अस्ति. सूत्रे तस्य इति ग्रहणस्य प्रयोजनं सम्पूर्णस्य इत्संज्ञा समुदायस्य लोपविधानम्. यदि अत्र केवलं लोपः इत्येव सूत्रं क्रियते तर्हि अलोन्त्यस्य इत्यनेन केवलम् अन्तिमवर्णस्य लोपः भवेत्, सम्पूर्णस्य समुदायस्य लोपः न भवेत्.
तत् कथं महोदय? तत्र एकः वर्णः चेत् अलोन्त्यस्य इति प्रायः भवितुम् अर्हति. लोपः इति उक्तत्वात् इतः इति प्रायः अनुवर्तते किल?
तत् सम्यक् अस्ति, परन्तु यत्र यत्र अङ्गस्य लोपः प्रकृतेः लोपः इति वदामश्चेत् तत्र अन्तिमवर्णस्य एव लोपः भवति किल? अङ्गाधिकारे बहुत्र लोपः इति उच्यते, परन्तु तत्र अङ्गस्य लोपः इति अस्ति. तत्र सम्पूर्णस्य अङ्गस्य लोपः भवति वा? न भवति. अनेनैव प्रकारेण अत्र अस्मिन् इत्सम्यकप्रकरणे लोपः इति अस्ति. इत्सम्यकवर्णस्य लोपः इत्युक्ते तस्य अन्तिमवर्णस्य लोपः भवेत्. सो लोपः इति उच्यमाने एव लोपे प्राप्ते लोपे सिद्धे तस्य इति ग्रहणं समुदायस्य लोपार्थं. सो I think this will be there in the bhashya. Starts with this tasya grahanam kimartham. Why is this tasya present over there? He elaborates a lot on why tasya is not needed, and at some place he will say sampurnasya lopaha bhavati. Here idam tarhi prayojanam ye anekal itsamnyaha tesham lopaha sarvadeshah yatha syat. The itsamnya letters like ni, tu and du, which are anekal letters, the entire thing has to be removed. Okay. Now there is additional Shastra Vishaya on the top of it, and I have explained this in this particular section, which I don't want to go in the details. But actually there is a paribhasha in Paribhashendu Shekhara. This is a pretty advanced discussion. There is a paribhasha in Paribhashendu Shekhara. Nanarthake alontya vidhihi anabhyasa vikare. Let's not go in the details. It's not expected from you. But from this paribhasha, it turns out that even if Panini would have said lopaha, it would have meant the entire itsamnyakasya lopaha and not the alontyasya. There are some further logical arguments based on which, using this paribhasha, it would be clear that even if by saying lopaha alone, it would still mean the entire itsamnyaka varnasya lopaha and not antima varnasya lopaha. And therefore, in the light of this paribhasha, asya siddhantasya pakshe tasya iti grahanam vastutah anavashyakam asti. If you favor this particular paksha, if you favor this particular paribhasha, then it is perfectly possible to get rid of tasya from this sutram. But this is a pretty advanced discussion. We will keep that aside. For now, it's important to understand tasya has been added to justify sarvasya lopaha.
So in general, when we apply the alontyasya, anadev parasya, all that, we look at the adesha, which is a anekal or ekal. Is that right?
Correct. That is correct.
So
Not the
here
sthana.
the lopaha is kind of an adesha. Yeah, even if it is tasya or itsamyakasya, it should be the alontyasya only has to happen, right?
That is correct. So the point is, it is a kal, so alontyasya is expected to come in the picture. So Panini could have just written lopaha, it would have meant alontyasya also. So why did he write tasya lopaha? The word tasya becomes redundant. Vyartham samjnapayati sampurnasya lopaha bhavati. So if a word is useless in a sutram, this is a general rule of Ashtadhyayi. If a word becomes useless in a sutram, suddenly that word gets great power, because Panini won't write useless words in the sutra. So if you are able to do without a word, then your logic where you are ignoring that word is wrong. That is the extra power that the word gives. So the way we technically describe this is केवलं लोपः इत्युच्यमाने सति एव अन्य अन्त्यस्यैव वर्णस्य लोपे सिद्धे पुनः तस्य ग्रहणं व्यर्थम् व्यर्थं सज्ञापयति सम्पूर्णस्य इत्सम्यकस्य लोपः भवति. If by ignoring a component of the sutram you are able to easily interpret the sutram, then that extra component becomes useless. As soon as it becomes useless, it gains an extra power. What power? It says that whatever you try to interpret without me is wrong. Bring me in the picture and bring a different interpretation, and that will be correct. Because without me, if you are able to interpret a sutram, then what is point of my existence over here? Panini will not write a word in a sutram which is useless. Ataha, as soon as a word becomes useless, it tells you the meaning that you're trying to associate with the sutram without that word is incorrect. So just by saying lopaha, if you are able to create the meaning of antimasya varnasya lopaha, that meaning is incorrect when you bring in the word tasya in the picture. So then what is the other meaning? Sampurnasya lopaha. Sada Gopanji.
A question was raised whether the lopaha is ekal or anekal. By that, we are actually implying whether the sutra anekal shit sarvasya will apply here or not.
Correct.
That I think is quite extraneous and need not be considered like that. Yeah, lopa is neither a ekal nor anekal. Therefore, the question should not be asked whether lopa is ekal or anekal. Because
that is also
if
so,
there is a al, you can ask whether it is ekal or anekal. If there is no al, where is the question of ekal or anekal? So the question itself is not exactly okay, I think.
But
so if
without
you
knowing
go
that,
to
how will we decide?
one second. So if you go to Alontyasya Sutra, the Alontyasya Sutra says Shashti Nirdishtasya yaha uchyate adeshaha saha antyasya alaha sthane veditavyaha. The question over here is lopa being considered as an adesha in the first place? Do you want to apply Alontyasya or do you want to apply Anekal Shitra? So actually what he says does make sense to me, because Alontyasya does not say Ekal adeshaha. Alontyasya only says that yakopi adesha uchyate saha antyasya alaha sthane veditavyaha. So whatever is the adesha being told, it needs to go at the last letter. The Anekal Shit Sarvasya Sutram is a special condition on that, which says an adesha which is Anekal. So the question comes, is lopa and Anekal adesha? And you need to have a definite yes or no answer to it. Whether lopa is ekal adesha or not is a different story. But when it comes to anekal shit sarvasya, we need to have a definite answer. Is lopa anekal or it is not anekal? And the answer is it is not anekal. Whether it is ekal or not is irrelevant. It is not anekal, therefore anekal shit sarvasya is not applicable, and therefore alontyasya is applicable. The fact that lopa is ekal does not really come in the picture over here. So I think this argument is perfectly acceptable, that lopa can be considered as neither anekal nor ekal. Anything else?
We do delete more than one characters, right? Like if
Where?
in the itsamya, if there are more than one itsamya in a letter, like but each one is considered itsamya and each one's deletion. That's how we.
You mean dukruin, y is being removed and do is being removed. Yeah, each is considered separate itsamya. There is no question of it. It's like multiple applications of tasya lopa. It's not one tasya lopa removing everything.
But okay, concurrently.
Concurrent and so all is up to you. I mean, even if it's concurrent, it's like not same sutram is not being applicable everywhere. It's multiple copies of that sutram being applicable.
Because as soon as you remove one itsamya, it will lose the status of upadesha, right?
No. So the point is, upadesha is required only for giving itsamya, not for removing itsamya. So you use the concept of upadesha and mark the letters as upadesha, sorry, itsamya, and then you get rid of them by tasya. So Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudyam tasya itaha lopaha syat, and then he says anadayah anadyarthaha. So Shiva Sutreshu vidyamanaha ye itsamyaka varnaha tesham lopaha bhavet. अस्य लोपस्य किं प्रयोजनम् इति चेत् तत्र अण अच एतादृशं प्रत्याहार निर्माणम्. Itsamya always follows the prayojana. If there is no prayojana, even if you have a matching sutram, you do not get an itsamya. This is important to understand. Just because there is a first letter called cha, chutu is not necessarily going to apply. Just because there is a first letter called sha, shaf pratyasa is not necessarily going to apply. Just because there is a last letter which is hala, halantyam is not necessarily going to apply. If it does not have a prayojanam, it does not become an itsamyaka. So he says there is a prayojan of making na of ayuna, ka of ruluka, and so on itsamyaka. What is the prayojanam? So anadayah anadyarthaha. Artha is prayojanam. We have also seen this during Mangalacharanam. Artha means prayojanam. So anadihi yesham te anadayah. He is giving two lists. Anadayah is one list which consists of all the itsamyaka letters. Na of ayuna, ka of ruluka, nga of aong, and so on. So that is anadayah. All these itsamyaka letters are being called itsamyaka. Why? What is the prayojanam? The prayojanam is the second list. Anadyarthaha. Ana pratyahara is to be created. Aka pratyahara is to be created. Acha pratyahara is to be created. So basically all the 44 pratyaharas is the prayojanam. So ana adihi yesham te anadayah. Na adihi yesham te anadayah. तादृशाः अणादयः इत्सम्यकवर्णाः अणादयः इति तेषां प्रयोजनमस्ति. सो अण् आदिः येषां ते अणादयः ते अर्थः. अर्थाः इत्युक्ते प्रयोजनं. ते अर्थाः प्रयोजनं येषां ते अणाद्यर्थाः. अणादयः इत्युक्ते ण क ङ च and so on. So he explains both the list and then he explains it. इत्सम्यकवर्णाः तेषां किं प्रयोजनं? अनादि प्रत्याहार निर्माणम्. अनादि प्रत्याहार प्रयोजकाः इति यावत्. Yes, Sudha Gopanji.
Anadeha, why this Namudagamaha is ignored there?
That's a
Because
good question.
yeah, because of that there is a confusion whether it is Nadeha, Nadeha, Anadeha. We may get confused like that. You better to have a, I mean, I am not here to, I'm not qualified to suggest, but Panini may, in order to protect the ith letter and the clarity of ith letter, in many cases he doesn't do the sandhi at all, which is a different matter. But here, Anadya, they could have as well done. Anyway,
Let's
just
take
thought.
a look at, no, wait, let me take a look at the, first of all, let me take a look at the printed copy and make sure that I have not made a mistake in copying. Give me 1 minute because that's a good question. Anadi prayojanakaha. First of all, why does it prayojanakaha? Anadi pratyahara prayojanakaha iti yavat. So it should be an plus adi, anadi. Yeah, I think he just follows what Moolam says. Moola is anadayaha anadyarthaha. So he follows anadayaha anadyarthaha. That's a good question. Why is Namudagama not done? I have no answer. Probably just because he follows the Moola. Strange. I have been reading this for so many years. Not even once I got this question. It should be Anadi. It's so much fit in the brain that it looks like Anadi. And everywhere you keep on using Anadi. Interesting. Anything else? So yeah, probably the only answer is that he just follows what is there in the Moola, which is kind of questionable. Okay. Agrimam Sutram आदिरन्त्येन सहेता प्रथमाध्यायस्य प्रथमपादस्य एकसप्ततितमं सूत्रम् आदिरन्त्येन सहेता पदपरिचयः. 4 padas are there. चत्वारि पदानि आदिः अन्त्येन सह and ita. Saheta is not one word. Sah and ita. Adihi antyena sah ita. Iti adirantyena saheta. Let's do a quick pada parichaya. Adihi. So adi prathamaika vachanam. Antya. What is antya? Ante bhavaha antyah. Digadibhyo yat. 3 or 4 times we studied this in the course. दिगादिभ्यो यत इत्यनेन यत् प्रत्ययः भवति. सो अन्त्य तस्य तृतीया एकवचनम् अन्त्येन सह इज अव्ययम् सह एंड इता इत् इत्यस्य तृतीय एकवचनम् इता. सो अन्त्येन इता सह आदिहि. दैट्स द होल सूत्रम. अन्त्येन इता सह आदिहि. अन्त्येन ita sah adihi. What happens? How do we interpret this sutram? We all have studied this, right? So can somebody walk me through what happens?
अन्त्येन इता सहितः आदिः स्वस्य च मध्यगानां सम्या भवति इति.
This is a typical vritti that we give. Antyena ita sahitah adihi swasya madhyaganam cha samnya syat iti samanya rupena vyakhyanasya artha diyate. Let's break this down. I'm not sure how much in details we have studied this, but let's break this down. Maybe a little bit of revision will happen over here. So basically, he is capturing two entities, something that is at the beginning, Adihi, and something that is at the end, Antya, and he qualifies the ending entity with an ita. So Antyena itasah. Beginning is not ita, Antya is ita, so Antyena itasah. Now, how is Adihi defined? What is Adihi? Adihi is something yasmat purvam kimapi nasti, because then it will not be Adihi. Adihi ityukte kim yasmat purvam kimapi nasti parantu yasmat param anantaram kinchid avashyam vidyate. If there is only one entity, you might degeneratively call it Adi, but it will be only for satisfying the language scholars. Nobody will say I am the first person in the line if there is no line. I know there is a Vyapadeshivat Bhava which allows you to say the same thing. Devadatyasya ekaha putraha saha eva jeshtha saha eva kanishtha. So if Devadatta has only one son, and if you ask bring your jeshtha son, he will bring the same person. If you ask bring kanishtha son, he will bring the same person. So technically speaking, even if one person is there, he is called jeshtha and he is called kanishtha. But this is all technical discussion. For all practical purposes, if you say I am the beginning, I am the first person, then it means there will be somebody else in that queue, in that competition, somewhere else, right? So adihi ityukte yasmat purvam kimapi nasti parantu anantaram kimapi asti. At least one entity should be later on. Similarly, anta ityukte end, yasmad anantaram kimapi nasti parantu yasmat purvam kimapi bhavet. So Adi and Anta have been explicitly defined in this way, and you can see this in the Sudha Teeka also. He says, Yasmat Purvaha Nasti Param cha Asti Saha Adi. What is Adi? Something which does not have anything before it, but there will be something after it. Just Purvam Nasti iti paryaptam na, Purvam Nasti Param Asti Saha Adi. यस्मात् परम नास्ति पूर्वम अस्ति सह अंतः. In the same way, there is nothing after that, but there is something before that. So यस्मात् परम नास्ति पूर्वम अस्ति सह अंतः. अतः आदि इति वदामश्चेत् first of the queue, anta iti vadamaschet end of the queue. Now what happens when you say first and last? What is automatically included? The middle ones are automatically included. When you reference the first and when you reference the last, the middle ones are automatically included. Why are they included? We have a paribhasha, we have a nyaya which says tanmadhyapatitaha tadgrahanena grihyante. Hear this out. Tanmadhyapatitaha, something which is in between, tadgrahanena grihyante. If you take this end and if you take this end, everything that falls in between is automatically included. Have you come across this nyaya at some other place in your study? Anywhere where you might have used this nyaya? Tan madhyapatitaha Madhyapatitah, fallen in between, tadgrahanena gruyante. If you take the entire entity, something that is fallen in between automatically comes in. Have you studied Sarvanama Shabdas? Have you studied a very specific pratyaya called akach in the Sarvanama Shabdas?
Akajarte in that Ubha Shabda.
Correct. So ubhak, have you studied that ubhak or anything? I don't know if you have studied, but
Not in
there
detail,
is.
Mahodaya. Just
Okay.
kimartham Ubha ityasya grahanamasya asti iti.
So akach is a very specific pratyaya. This is a pratyaya that it's a pratyaya first of all. Where is a pratyaya added? Pratyaya is to added at the end. Pratyayaha parascha iti vadamaha. But akach is a pratyaya that gets inserted in between. It is not inserted at the end. And when akach gets inserted in between, when you say sarvanama, that akach which is fallen in between is also included along with the akach. Along with the sarvanama. So when you say sarva is a sarvanama, it includes the akach entity present inside it, and that whole thing is taken up. तत् मध्यपतिताः तद्ग्रहणेन गृह्यन्ते. अतः अन्तिमस्य आदिवर्णस्य च ग्रहणं भवति चेत् मध्यपतितस्य ग्रहणम् अवश्यं भवति. अतः without any anuvrutti, without any reference, without any direct mention, the madhya is immediately included, and that's what he says, iha adyantabhyam अवयवेन बोधकाभ्याम शब्दाभ्याम मध्यगाः आक्षिप्यन्ते. Akshipyante is they get captured along with the first and the last. इह इह इत्युक्ते अत्र सूत्रे आदिवर्णस्य ग्रहणं कृतमस्ति, अन्तिमवर्णस्य ग्रहणं कृतमस्ति, मध्यगानां ग्रहणं निर्देशः न कुत्रचित् वर्तते, परन्तु इह आद्यन्ताभ्याम, if you pull one end of the string and if you pull another end of the string, if you lift both of them, the middle string will automatically get lifted. It will not remain as it is. So आद्यन्ताभ्याम अवयवेन बोधकाभ्याम शब्दाभ्याम मध्यगाः आक्षिप्यन्ते, अतः तेषाम् अपि अत्र अस्मिन् सूत्रे ग्रहणं भवति. Clear so far?
So here it feels like it's hanging, right? Like antyena ita sahita adihi is only given there. What is it a samya? If it's a samya sutram, that samya is not given there, and
That is
also
a
it's
very good
only
question.
talking
Yes.
about adihi, right? It is not talking about anything else. Though, where does the madhyaganam comes?
Correct.
The same kind of questions.
Correct. This is a absolutely very valid question. So let's understand this. Let's understand this whole thing in the context. Till now, all that we have studied is antyena ita sah adihi. It brings in madhyaka. What is happening, I have not yet told. All that I have explained so far is that when you bring adi and when you bring antya in the picture, it will include the middle ones. I have not used, explained that it generates pratyahara. I have not explained that it is a samya. Nothing has been explained so far. All that I'm saying is if you pick up the first end and if you pick up the last end, the middle entity will come. Antyena ita sah adihi madhyagasya grhanam karoti. What is antya? Ante bhavah antyaha. Antya, there is a yata pratyay over there. What is adihi? Adihi is the beginning. Why is it not written adya? If it would have been antya, I would have expected it to be adya. Or if it would have been adi, I would have been expected to be anta. Why is this mix up happening? Adihi antyena sah ita. Why is this mix up being done? What is the difference between anta and antya? Anta is basically the position. Antya is ante bhavah antyaha. Why does he have to use ante bhavah? Ita ityanena sah saha anveti. Antyena ita sahitah adihi. So antyena ita. Ante bhavah yaha idvarnaha tena sah. If you just say anta, it will mean a position. It will not mean the letter present at the position. Therefore, he says antya, antyena itasah. which will mean that a letter present at the last position is included. So far so good. Let's use the same logic for the Adi word. Adi is the position. The first position is being called Adi. How do you now use it to represent the Varna? Do you say Adi Varnaha? Then he would have said Adhyaha. If he wanted to say Adi Varnaha, he would have said Adhyaha. So why does he say Adi? Let's not read too much into it, but there is a way to treat this Adi to include the first letter also. The way commentators do it is commentators go a little few sutras earlier and they bring the word Swa as an anuvritti in this sutra. So Adihi is the first position. The Swa itself includes the letter present over there. So Antena Itasah Adihi, this whole thing will now include Madhyaga, the entities present in the middle, and it will also include the Swa, which is now going to resonate with Adihi, bringing the entity present in the first place. So we are all now collecting entities. Antya collects the entity at the last place. Madhyaga collects the entities in between. Adihi is the position. Swa comes as an anuvritti and helps Adihi to pull the letter present at the first position. So Adi sthane ityukte swasthane upasthitaha varnaha Adi varnaha. Antyaha Antimaha varnaha. Both of them, by doing the Tanmadhyapatita Grahanam, Madhyama varnaha or Madhyaga varnaha. Anena prakarena Adihi Antyaha Madhyaha ete sarve varnaha ekatra rupena grihyante. Clear? Now, from Swam Rupam Shabdasya Ashabda Samnya, we also bring the word Samnya over here. And then we say this Adihi along with the Antyaha becomes the Samnya. This Samnya will then capture whom? It will capture the middle ones and it will capture the first one. We are not capturing the last one. The last one is only being resonated with Ita. Antya varnasya grahanam nasti. Antya varnasya Ita ityanena sah anvayah bhavati. So antyena Ita sah adihi. This becomes the Samnya which captures Swam and Madhyaga. Let repeat, three entities. There is a beginning entity, there is a middle entity, and there is an end entity. Middle entities, many of them are there, not necessarily one. So one beginning entity, one end entity, and one middle entity. The beginning entity and the middle entity are the ones that are Sammi, that are the ones that are being represented. The beginning position and the end entity are used to create a samnya. Antyena ita sahitah adihi samnyarupena svikriyate. Kasya samnyarupena svikriyate? Swasya ityukte adivarnasya madhyaganam ityukte madhye vidyamananam varnanam. अनेन प्रकारेण आदिः वर्णः अन्त्येन इत्सम्यकवर्णकेन सह स्वस्य मध्यगानां च संज्ञारूपेण तिष्ठति. Take a minute to understand, digest, think about it.
महोदय अनुवृत्ति सहित सूत्रं किं भवति?
अन्त्येन इता सह आदिः स्वस्य संज्ञा इति अनुवृत्ति सहितं सूत्रम्. Madhyaga is not coming as an anuvritti. Madhyaga comes up as inference.
न्यायतः.
Nyayatah, inference, paribhashatah.
But where is the samya?
I'll come to that. That's a good question. Hold on. We have only said that there is some samnya being created and some samni happening. Now I'll come to the fundamental question.
You said it. That's also coming as an anuvritti from the other sutra,
The
right?
word samnya is coming as an anuvritti. See, this samnya is coming as an anuvritti. But what is the samnya? I will come to that. Is this clear, or you want me to explain this further? The word adi, we will consider it as a position if needed. We will consider it as a letter if needed. They are not distinguished from each other in the commentary. So we will say antyena ita sah adivaranaha madhyaganam. That madhyaga automatically comes by the nyaya, plus adihi comes by the swasya. So it comes from swam rupam shabdasya shabdasamnya and it gets converted to shashti. So swam becomes swasya. So adihi madhyaganam swasya cha samnya bhavat.
Whatever is defined in the prathama vibhakti is what is usually getting the samya, right? Like
So what is defined in the prathama vibhakti over here?
adihi.
Huh?
And then we are making the swam as swasya.
Correct. So swasya is not being considered in part of making a samnya. Adihi, but kidrushaha adihi antyena ita sahitah adihi. So who is the samnya over here?
Adihi only, right?
And ak, these are the samyas.
Look at this. Ana is the samnya. A combined with na is the samnya. A combined with ka is the samnya.
Correct.
A combined with cha is the samnya. This sutra does not give pratyahara as the samnya. Panini does not use the word pratyahara anywhere in Ashtadhyayi. Pratyahara is not a samnya of Ashtadhyayi. This is a unique sutram of Ashtadhyayi which defines more than 50 samnyas, everything in the same place. A along with cha is a samnya. A along with na is a samnya. Ha along with sh is a samnya. Va along with la is a samnya. Adihi antyena itasah samnya bhavati. Any questions so far? Does everybody understand this, that there is no pratyahara samnya anywhere created by Ashtadhyayi? Not even a single commentary will tell you this. There is no pratyahara samnya. There are more than 55 samnyas defined by this particular sutram. All that it says is take the first letter, take the last it letter, the group or their pair is called a samnya. That's it. Okay. Now, if you have a samnya is useless if you don't have a samni. What is the samni? The entity that the samnya represents. So what is that samni? That is where all that tanmadhya patitaha and all that comes up. We need to have madhyagas and we need to have adi, but we don't need to have antya. So we bring in swa as an anuvritti from the previous sutram and we bring the madhyagas, but we ignore the antya and that becomes the samni. So now, if you have a and ch, if you say a, I, una, ruluka, e, onga, a, yau, ch, if you take the ch and if you take a and bring them together, it becomes a ch, which is a samnya. What does it represent? It represents all the middle entities. Whatever you see, keep on marking whatever is in the middle. I, una, ruluka, e, onga, I, o. Capture all that and the adi that becomes the samni. Clear?
Mahodaya, but when we are making ach, so even though the nakara and all we know as it's samyaka varna, that is also included in the madhyaga nam, right? Like
In the first step.
madhyagas, right?
In the first step we include them, but then there is a logic because of which we immediately exclude them, and then the resultant madhyagas become e, u, ru, lu, a, o, I, au. These are the final resultant madhyagas. Technically speaking, when you say madhyagas, all these automatically get included, but there are multiple layers of interpretation and or multiple layers or multiple steps going on. So you just ignore these middle entities. I will come to that, park that thought aside for now. So what is happening? we have samnya. Who is the samnya? Acha is the samnya. Aka is the samnya. Pratyahara is not the samnya. Who is the samni? The madhyaga is the samni and the adihi is the samni, or the swa is the samni. So swa and madhyaga become samni. Clear? Any questions on this particular aspect so far?
So if we say un, how is in justified? How can we take ye as the adi? Ik.
Because adihi does not
Any
mean
letter can be taken as adi.
adihi means any beginning letter. So you can, take a list and say I start from fifth and it is beginning of the remaining list. So it's as simple as that.
Adiyantena Saheta only applies to Maheshwara Sutra. It is not like
No,
that.
it does not. No. So that's a good
So
question.
it
So let's
applies to,
understand that.
we
Let's
have
understand
other
that.
things like soup and things like that, right? Things, soup and all.
Correct. So let's tackle that question first. So Adirantena Sahita, is it only applicable to Maheshwara Sutras? The answer is no. The sutra does not say it is applicable to Maheshwara Sutras anywhere. Maximum application of the sutra is about Maheshwara Sutras. But as you said, Sup is there, Ting is there. These are all samnyas created exactly using the same mechanism. You have a big sutram, Su, Auja, Sam, Mausha, Stabhyam, Bis, and so on, up to Me, O, Sup. So
But
Antyena,
soup
that
is
is the
included, right? Per is included there, right? You use it as this thing, right? So you don't omit everything and just take last is soup, right? Su and
in Supa or in Pinga, the samnya consists of pakara. When a samnya is being created, its samnyaka letter is not removed. Ana ityatra na is not removed. Super ityatra pa is not removed. When it gets removed when the samni is being taken. Who is the samni? The samni is a, e, and u. In the same way, in the supratyahara, who is the samni? It is all the pratyayas starting from su up to super. Now, one pratyaya
pratyaya.
itself is a super, that is okay. There you are anyway going
Correct.
to include the pa at the end, but it is not because that pa is of the samnya. That's not the reason why it gets included. So what is the meaning of the sutram? Antyena ita sahitaha adihi. This is the samnya. Who is the samni? The madhyagaha and swaha. That is the samni. How many samnyas are created? More than 50. First of all, 44 pratyaharas. So 44 samnyas over there. And then you have sup. You have ting. Again created by Adirantyena Sahita. Any other examples that you are aware of that can be created by Adirantyena Sahita?
Sut. Sutta nagum kasve.
Very good.
Nagum
Sutta.
sakasve. Sut.
Su, au, just, out. Sutta is created by
Out.
Adirantyena Sahita. Anything else? टा इति प्रत्ययस्य अकार अन्तिम सम्यक् टाप इति प्रत्याहारः सिद्ध्यति. So this tap pratyahara, basically ap pratyahara. But more important, I was trying to find if you know this tongue. Do you know this tongue?
Yeah.
Sittaji,
Atmanepada.
Atmanepadi.
laf parasmai padam tanganavatmane padam. So tongue is basically in this tiptaji, you start with this ta and you end up with this nga. The half part of thing is tongue, which is the Atmane Pada Pratyas. The first half is the Parasmai Pada Pratyas, the next half is the Atmane Pada Pratyas. That Atmane Pada Pratyas is also being captured by the Pratyahara tongue. Okay, so now coming to the basic question, when you capture all these Madhyagas, what happens to the middle Itsamyaka letters? How are they removed? So there are three reasons given for that. The first and the most important reason is acharaha, the way we deal with the language. Let's take a very simple word, anunasika. Understand this point very carefully. Let's take a very simple word, anunasika. Everybody has seen that word. Everybody has used that word. The mere existence of the word anunasika tells us that the middle itsamyaka letters are not included in the pratyahara. When you create an acha pratyahara, the na of ayuna is not included. The ka of ruluka is not included. The na of aong is not included. The reason is the existence of the word anunasika. Why has anunasika to do with any of this? Understand this point. Consider the sutram ikoyanachi. What does the sutram ikoyanachi say? The ik varna gets converted to yana varna when there is an ach in front. Iti plus atra, the ikara gets converted to ya because there is an ach in the front. What is an ach? Ach is starting from a up to ch of ayauch. Let's assume that in acha pratyahara, madhyagas are included with the itsamyaka letters. So my new definition of acha is e, u, na, ru, lu, ka, e, o, nga, I, au. These are all members of acha. So ka is now present in acha. A, I, U, Na, Ru, Lu, Ka. Ka is now present in acha because I don't agree that its samyaka letters have to be removed. So ka is now present in acha. Now in the anunasika word, how is the word constructed? A, Nu, Na, Si. There is an ikara and then there is a ka. So you have an E and you have a K. K is an acha letter. So there must be a yanadesha happening. E must get converted to ya and I should be creating a word called anunasyak. But I don't do that. I say anunasika, which means that there is no yana sandhi possible between E and K, which means that K is not in acha. Clear? This is called achara. This is called behavior of language. I use the word anunasika, you use the word anunasika, Panini uses the word anunasika. That word itself tells me that ka is not acha. And anunasika is just one example. You can take what? Ardha dhatuka, for example. Ardha dhatuka. U and ka. Ka is not itsamyaka because otherwise there would be yanadesha possible. You can create whichever, take any word which has a n or a ng or a k and you can apply the same logic. The word anunasika is being used by the commentators in this context, so I just use that word. This is one reason we call it achara. What is achara? Our own ability to use the language. Because basically prayoga is what dictates the rules of the grammar. The rules of the grammar cannot dictate the prayoga. Our own use of the language has words like ardha dhatuka or say anunasika. It very clearly explains that ka and therefore all other itsamyaka letters are not to be included in the term of madhyaga. Second explanation. Second explanation says pradhanyam. What is it? It is called pradhanyam. If you want to construct the achil pratyahara, you keep on looking at it and you say a is a swara, e is a swara, u is a swara, ru is a swara, lu is a swara. So the fundamental purpose of creating the ach pratyahara is to create all swaras. Therefore, the Gauna entities, the Apradhana entities, the non-important entities will not be included. Therefore, just because our intention is to capture the Pradhana entities, the secondary entities are automatically excluded. Therefore, the Na and the Ka and the Nga get excluded. This is the second explanation. The third explanation is lopaha. As soon as these middle ण and ng and k become its samyaka letters, they will undergo tasya lopaha. So they will anyway be removed. So what is the question of considering them in the madhyagas? The last it letter ch is not being removed because it is explicitly being captured. Antena itasah. You want to capture it. Therefore, that reference itself is more important. So it temporarily holds off the deletion. But this middle is samyak letters. I un is it samyak. Ruluk is the samyak. A o is it samyak. They will be removed. Who is holding them? Who is stopping them? So they will anyway be removed by tasya lopaha. Tasya lopaha is a parasutra. By the paratva purvatva, it will take precedence. So before adirantena sahita, tasya lopaha can get rid of these letters, and therefore na, nga, ka are removed. So we are only left with a, e, u, ru, lu, a, o, I, o. And cha, it will get removed, but because the sutra itself explicitly mentions, hold on to cha, antyena ita saha. So sutra nirdesha samarthya tasya lopaha na bhavati. Is this too much? Let's go to Shiva Sutras. The fourth Shiva Sutra, Ayauch, Kashikakara explains exactly this using a karika. प्रत्याहारे अनुबंधानां कथम अज्ग्रहणेषु न अज्ग्रहणेषु इत्युक्ते अच् इति ग्रहणं क्रियते चेत् प्रत्याहारे अनुबंधानां कथम ग्रहणं न भवति आचारात् the behavior apradhanatvat because they are gauna, they are secondary, and lopasya balavattaraha, the lopa takes the precedence. Three reasons. Achara, the word anunasika, or here I have given the example of ardhadhatuka. The word ardhadhatuka or the word anunasika proves apradhanatvat. In between the swaras, there is no point of having vyanjanas. They are secondary, so they can be removed. Lopaha balavattaraha. The tasya lopa will kick off this na, and all other middle itsamnyaka letters. Pratyaharit nirmanat purvameva itsamnyaka varnaha lupyante. Atah na ka ityetesham pratyahareshu granam na bhavati. This is being captured in a karika. प्रत्याहारे अनुबंधानां कथम अज्ग्रहणेषु न आचारात् अप्रधानत्वात् लोपश्च बलवत्तरः. Get out of the shock and then you can ask questions if any.
न सम्यक् अस्ति महोदय शाक् किमपि नास्ति इट्स् सो सिम्पल् and it but so
Maulik, can you
beautiful.
please explain this?
What? Yeah, it's very beautiful. That is correct. It's very intelligent. It's very
Apradhanatvat, can you just explain once again?
apradhanatvat means that when you are collecting important things, the unimportant things can be removed. You don't need to collect unimportant things when you're collecting important things. When you have a limited time and you are doing an errand for important things, small things can be left out. If a big task has to be achieved, leaving out small things might be okay. In the same way, when the majority of the entities are the swara letters, the vyanjanas may be removed or may be ignored temporarily. Now, this logic doesn't apply for hala because in hala, it's all vyanjanas that are coming. So, it's basically, you have to, this is basically for ach. So, pratyahareshu anubandhanam katham ajgrahaneshu. So, he's explicitly asking about ach. So, he's giving these three examples, but you can concur these three reasons. So, you can create similar reasons for others also. At least the achar is the fundamental and the most, powerful reason which holds everywhere.
No, but even for the Halvarna, you could technically say if I'm interested in capturing only the Prathama, Dvitiya, members of the Vargas, then why would I want to do capture
So
other
that argument might be okay if you want to capture a small aspect like chai, for example.
Yes.
Okay, the argument for hal would be that you have already captured these letters. So hal or t is already going to be captured later on. Why you want to capture it again? So then this is apradhana. The t of khafa chatta chattata will be pradhana. The t of hayavarat will be apradhana. So then you can remove it. So pradhanatva argument can be molded in different ways for different Shiva Sutras. He just gives one example for ach. Clear?
So can we,
That is very prominent.
Yeah. Jayashree.
this can be related to, like we have this karturi ipsitamam karma. The most desired result is what is karma, and that which is the side ones are not considered. Can we
Correct.
relate
But in
it to?
correct. But in Karturi Ipsita Tamam Karma, he explicitly says Ipsita Tama. So here we are not saying Ipsita Tama. We are basically saying there are some pradhanas and some gaunas and we only take pradhanas. So something similar, but here we have to do an extra level of interpretation. Like some pradhanas and some gaunas and we keep gaunas aside.
Mahoday, in sut pratyahara, even the it samya have functions, so they are considered, right?
Where Itsamnya always has a function. You don't randomly do Itsamnya.
Only in Maheshwara Sutrani, the it samya letters don't have the intermediate it samya letters don't have function, but in most
See,
other
the point is
pratyaharas,
this. The point is this. When you say Sut Pratyahara or Sup Pratyahara, the Madhyaga that you are taking will bring their own Itsamyas with them. Okay.
they are
So
bring.
if you say Su au Jas, that J is Itsamyaka letter, you are not taking that, but Madhyaka is Jas. So it is bringing its own Itsamyaka letter over there. In case of Acha, the Madhyaga A, I, U are independent of Ana. So they won't bring Ana along with it. But in Jas, J cannot be separated from Asa. So it brings along. Let's read the Vyakhya and close this sutra so that next time we can go to Ukalojrasva Dirghaplatah. आदिरन्त्येन सहेता इति अन्ते भवः अन्त्यः दिगादिभ्यो यत् तेन इतासः उच्चार्यमाणः आदिः अण् अच् इत्यादि रूपः संज्ञा इत्यर्थः. नो प्रत्याहार संज्ञा हैज बीन डिस्कस्ड. यस्मात् पूर्वं नास्ति परं च अस्ति सः आदिः, यस्मात् परं नास्ति पूर्वं च अस्ति सः अन्तः. इह आद्यन्ताभ्याम् अवयवत्वेन बोधकाभ्यां शब्दाभ्यां मध्यमाः आक्षिप्यन्ते, अतः तेषां संज्ञा इति लभ्यते. स्वं रूपम् इति पूर्वसूत्रादनुवर्तते, तच्च षष्ठ्यन्तया विपरिणम्यते. स्व बिकम्स स्वस्य, अन्त्येन इता सहितः आदिः स्वस्य मध्यगानां च संज्ञा स्यात्. सो तच्च षष्ठ्या विपरिणम्यते, तदा एतदाह अन्त्येन. सो अन्त्येन इता सहितः आदिः मध्यगानां स्वस्य. स्वस्य च इति अत्र स्वशब्देन संज्ञाकोटिप्रविष्टः आदिः. आदिः is being overloaded. It is used to create the samnya. It is also included in samni. Double role. So he says samnya koti pravishtah adihi. Antya is not in samni. It is only in samnya. Madhyagas are not in samjna. They are only in samni. Adi plays a double role. It has also been included in the samnya. It is also been included in samni. So swa is also coming in the picture. So swa shabdena samnya koti pravishtaha adi eva paramrishyate iti bhavaha. Clear? Not clear?
What does it sanya koti pravishta mean?
Samnya koti is group, the one that is included in the samnya. So ach ityatra a iti samnya nirmanartham prayuktah asti. Ach is the samnya. That a which is a part of the samnya is also a part of the samni. Samni is what? A, I, U, Ru, Lu, A, O, I, O. That also includes a. Ach also has a reference to a. So overloaded role. A is playing a double role. It is also playing a role in the samnya definition. It is also playing a role in the samni definition. Samnya koti pravishtaha adihi eva paramrishyate iti bhavaha.
Even adi, do we have to go and say that adi is samya and samni? Whenever he says adi, it is obviously part of the same gana in which it is the adi. So
Right, but for samni definition, he wants to be explicit, so he brings the swa as an anuvritti. I mean, because he's leaving out antya, right? So he wants to make sure adi is included. I mean, by your argument, antya should also be included, but it's not included. So he
No,
says adi
Antya
but
is
also
being
not
removed by Adarshanam Lopaha. No?
No, because it's if you want to not adarshanam lopaha by tasya lopaha. But if you want to remove antya, you
Yeah,
could have
sorry.
removed it earlier also. The fact that you are holding on to antya and bringing it as a form of a samnya means that antya exists. So why is not included? So then he says exclude both of them and then bring include adi.
Mahoday, what is the why is it madhya ga and not any, like, what does that ga do to, sorry,
मध्ये गच्छति इति मध्यगः ड प्रत्यय अस्ति. So मध्ये
sorry,
गच्छति इति मध्यगः.
oh, madhya gachati.
मध्ये
So,
गच्छति इति मध्यगः.
pratyayasya nama?
ड अन्तात्यन्ताध्वपार सर्वानन्तेषुडः. Let's see. अन्ताध्यन्ताध्वदूरपार सर्वानन्तेषुडः.
So, kidrisha
सर्वत्र
pratyaya?
ग पन्न ग like that ग्राम
Oh,
ग तल्प ग मध्य ग.
samasa bhavati khalu?
उपपद समास. This is a krut pratyay.
Upapada
D is a
samasa.
krut pratyay.
Astu upapada samasa bhavati.
Mahodaya, let us take the supratyaya once for clarity. So we take the adihi as su and the antima it letter as ip. Okay, so there if we take, what is the madhyaga there? Is it including the sup at the end, like, or it should stop by su?
So madhyaga will include the su for super because it is technically madhya. But su is not going to come alone. It is a part of a pratyaya. So the whole pratyaya comes in. Okay. So madhyagas is all the pratyayas. Su, au, jas. Ja, sa don't have independent existence. Jas is being taken. Out is being taken. Ta is being taken. Like that, su has to be included because it is madhyaga. Because pa is the letter that is being excluded, not the sup pratyaya being excluded. So su comes and then it brings pa along with it.